Hey, so today I'm making one of the world's most popular soups, minestrone. Welcome to another one of my episodes, and today we're doing soup. Which soup? Minestrone soup. And I think in the realm of soup, the soup world, that minestrone is probably one of the most popular soups around the world. It seems like everybody makes minestrone soup or their version. And what's so good about this soup that I think is that you really can make it your own. For those that don't know, minestrone soup is basically an Italian vegetable soup with some sort of large leaf vegetable in there. Some people make it with meats, some people don't, and mine, I do. I can remember back to when I was a kid, and it was like my favorite thing my mom made was minestrone. Her minestrone soup was like to die for. Had sausage, Italian sausage in there, and tons of veggies and noodles, and we just loved it. Whenever she made it, it was an awesome soup, and you know, she made a ton of it, so we had plenty for days. And when I was stationed in Italy, I saw that there were other different variations of minestrone soup. So the key is minestrone soup. You can make it your own. Put your own sort of ingredients in there. Try to, you can make minestrone soup all year round. Now, this is the best time, I think, right now in the wintertime, is to have any soup. But, you can do minestrone any time of year. You utilize what the vegetable is of the season. Like today, instead of potatoes, I'm going to use some turnips. And I'll use some green beans and just whatever I had in the fridge. But there's 3 key ingredients that I'm always going to put in my minestrone soup. That's sausage, some cabbage, and some garbanzos. And those are the 3 things my mom always had in her soup. So, and that's my 3 base items right there. And from there, we're just going to keep adding stuff into this pot until it's nice and full, and we'll go from there. Anyways, we'll get started here in a minute. I'm going to get a few things set up, and we'll move on. All right, so first of all, let's talk about some of the ingredients I'm going to put in my soup. First of all, I have some nice Italian sausages, spicy Italian sausages here that I pre-cooked. And the reason I pre-cook my sausages is I don't want all the grease in my minestrone soup. So I'm going to cut these up and get those prepared. We talked about vegetables of the season. I have some turnip here, actually some rutabaga. I had some rutabaga left over from a previous episode that I didn't use. So I went ahead and diced that up. And another thing, I had some leftovers from Christmas. I had some uncooked green beans. I'm going to use uncooked green beans. The cabbage I was talking about, going to use the cabbage that my mom used to put in hers. Carrots, I'm going to have some carrots in there. Some celery, I'm going to throw some celery in there. Onion, garlic, a bunch of parsley. So you got some tomato sauce over here, some plain tomato sauce. You could use regular tomatoes. If it was summertime, you would probably use, fresh tomatoes. But I got some plain tomato sauce, 28 ounces. I'm going to saute some of my veggie with some red wine. Some Italian seasoning. We'll crush some of that up in there. And I've got some stock here. All right, so getting into our preparation here, I'm going to start chopping, and I'm going to basically chop and dice straight into my pot. And we're going to layer basically all of our vegetables and flavors in this soup. So I'm going to get started. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get a little bit of olive oil in my pot here. That's about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And now I'm going to go ahead and get a rough chop on my onion. And again, this is just a rough chop, fairly large dice. Now that we have the onions in the pot, we're going to move on to the celery. So let's clean up the ends here. And like all of our vegetables for our minestrone, I'm going to put a rough chop, large chop. I don't want to mince anything up. I want nice big chunks for our soup.
And into the pot goes the remainder of the celery. Now let's move on to our carrots here, and we'll get a rough chop on our carrots as well. And as I go ahead and get these carrots cut up here, let me mention again that this is my take on minestrone. I do always use the 3 ingredients that my mom used in her minestrone, which was the cabbage, the sausage, and the garbanzos. She also used kidney beans. Whatever she had, she used. But I always make sure that I use those base 3 ingredients. I kind of want to carry on my mom's minestrone and add my own touch to it. So we're winding up the carrots here. We're going to move on to the garlic, and this is the one item that I will put a mince on. You really don't want big chunks of garlic in your soup. And now that the garlic's in the pot, let's move on to our cabbage. And what I'm going to do with my cabbage is I'm going to go ahead and remove the core here. Just a couple slits there, and remove the core. And what I'm going to do next is go ahead and cut this into quarters. So basically I'm going to split it in half and then split it in half 2 more times. After that, then I'm going to go ahead and put a nice slice on this. There we go. Just going to slice it up into probably about 1/4 inch slices and throw that into the pot. And that'll wrap up the cabbage. So let's give this a quick stir, and up next is one of the stars of this soup, and that being the sausages. My Italian sausages. Spicy Italian sausages. As you know, I like a little spice. Now, as I explained in the beginning of the video, I do pre-cook my sausage. I don't like all that grease seeping out into the soup. I'm also pricking these before as you notice, I'm pricking them to the side. Actually, you can't see that, but I prick the sausages because I do want to release the grease that may have built up underneath the skins. So I'm going to go ahead and slice these in half, then I'm going to dice them, and we'll get them into the pot. And there we go. There's our sausages. Now I'm going to take about 1/2 cup of parsley, fresh parsley. I'm going to give that a chop and get that into the pot. Alrighty, that wraps up the parsley. So let's give this pot a nice stir right now, get everything mixed up, incorporated, and we're going to go in with a full cup of red wine. In this case, I'm going to use Chianti. So let's get the wine in here, and then we're going to go let this simmer for a bit and cook down. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add about a tablespoon of salt and pepper. I'm going light with this. I'll make adjustments later on if need be. And now's the time I'm going to go in with the Italian seasoning. So I'm going to go ahead and put a tablespoon in my palms here, and I'm going to rub this directly into the pot. And another stir. Let's get everything incorporated, and we'll cook this down for a few minutes. Now earlier I peeled and diced 1/2 of a large rutabaga, and I'm going to go ahead and throw that into the pot right now. And I've got about 1.5 cups of fresh green beans that I cut into 1-inch pieces. And now I'm going to go ahead and add 28 ounces of plain tomato sauce. And I'm going to follow the tomatoes with my stock. So in this case, I'm using beef stock, and I'm using about 1.5 quarts. Now, I've also used a combination of beef and chicken stock in the past, which is really good as well. Or you can just use chicken stock. Use what you want. Make it your own. BYC, because you can. All right, now let's give this a stir. And wow, this pot already is just filled with all sorts of goodnessness. Is that a word? Well, it is now. All right, so now into the pot, we're going to add our beans. I'm going to add 3 cans, 15 ounces each of beans. My first is the Sicilian-style cannellini beans. Then I'm going to add in some garbanzo beans. And lastly, I'm going to add some large lima beans. If I was in Italy, I'd be using some fava beans. And you can add whatever bean that you like. That's the best thing about this pot. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in some fresh kale. And I'm going to add almost a half a bag of kale to this pot. Now, it seems like it's a lot, but trust me, this is going to cook down. And I love kale in this. It has a nice texture to it, nice crunchy texture. It's awesome. Now, some people add spinach, arugula. Again, you can make this your own and add whatever green that you like. Some people even add turnip greens. So let's get this kale pushed down and incorporated into the pot. We'll get the lid on it and then we'll simmer this for about an hour. Meanwhile, in another pot, I'm going to cook down my pasta. And then today, I'm going to go ahead and use a elbow macaroni in salted water, and you will see what I do with that. Now at this point I need some additional liquid, so I'm going to go ahead and use the salted water that I have left over from the pasta. And I'm going to go ahead and add my pasta into the minestrone. Now I highly recommend that you cook your pasta separately, and I'll tell you why. 2 reasons. Number 1, you'll have some reserved liquid, salted liquid, if you need to add liquid to your pot, to your soup. Number 2, you could be waiting for somebody to come home from dinner, and you're cooking your soup, you got it all ready, and you throw your pasta in there to cook in the soup, and the person that was coming home may be running a little bit late. Well, you have your pasta already in the soup. You run the risk of overcooking your pasta, and you don't want to do that.
All right, so here we are at the end here. The soup is done. We have our pasta in here. It's been simmering for a couple of hours. It's smelling good. It's looking good. So you know what that means? There's only one thing left to do, and that's to go in there for a taste. So let's get some in my bowl here. I'm going for a taste. All those nice veggies, the sausage, looking good. There you go. Wow. It's just kind of like my mom's, but maybe a little bit better. Nah, I can never make it better than she did. Anyways, there you have it. It's minestrone, and make it your own. I made it my own. I put some of the rutabagas in there. I use kale instead of spinach. Some people use spinach, and it's a soup for all seasons. In the summertime, you might want to put some zucchini in there. Towards the end of summer, you might want to throw some corn in there. You can do that because you can. BYC. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and most importantly, share. Hey, don't forget, all you gotta do is click on our little logo up here, and it's much easier to subscribe now. So until next time, thank you.